used to believe that family was everything, that blood meant safety, loyalty, love. Growing up, I admired my older sister, Claire, as if she had hung the stars herself. She was beautiful, confident, the golden child who could do no wrong. Mum always said, "Be more like your sister, Emily." Tried. I really did. But no matter what I did, I was always the shadow, never the light. When Dad died, Claire became Mum's pride and protector, and I became invisible. She moved into Dad's old office, said she'd handle the finances, since Mum was too emotional. I trusted her completely. She said she'd take care of me too. But the day I found out she'd transferred everything, Dad's savings, the house, even my small inheritance, into her name, I couldn't breathe. I confronted her, voice trembling. She didn't deny it. She just smiled and said, "You've never been good with responsibility, Em. I'm just keeping it safe." That night I went to Mum, shaking, hoping she'd see what I saw. But her face hardened. "Don't be ridiculous," she said. "Claire would never do something like that. You're just jealous." And for the first time in my life, I realized that in this family, truth didn't matter. Only appearances did. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. The betrayal lodged in my throat like glass. Claire still came by the house every morning, pretending everything was fine. Helping Mum with groceries, hosting Sunday dinners, acting like she hadn't stolen everything Dad left behind. Everyone adored her. "Your sister's such a saint," the neighbors would say. And I'd nod, pretending I agreed. I tried to prove it, to show Mum the documents I found, the bank statements with Claire's signature. But Mum refused even to look. "I won't have this family torn apart by lies," she said. "You'll apologize to your sister and drop it. Do you understand? Apologize. For being robbed. For being gaslit in my own home." I swallowed the rage until it tasted like poison. One night, Claire found me sitting on the porch, crying. She placed a hand on my shoulder. "You should really stop this drama, Em. It's embarrassing." Her tone was soft, but her eyes were ice. "You've always been the weak one. That's why Mum trusts me." She turned to leave, heels clicking against the floor, and I whispered, "You'll regret this one day." She stopped, smiled faintly, and said, "No, darling. You will." The weeks that followed were hell. Claire moved into the family house with Mum, claiming she didn't want Mum to be alone. I was pushed out, told it would be better if I found my own place. My father's home, where I grew up, became her palace. I ended up renting a tiny flat above a laundromat. The walls were thin. The air smelled like detergent and loneliness. Some nights, I lay awake wondering how everything had gone so wrong. Mum stopped answering my calls. When she did, her voice was clipped, rehearsed. "You've disappointed me, Emily. Family reputation is everything. People are starting to talk." I wanted to scream, "Let them talk." But Mum was raised on silence. Her generation believed pain was meant to be hidden, not healed. And so she chose denial over truth. Then came the final blow. Claire announced the launch of Turner & Company Wellness, a charity inspired by our late father's legacy. Except the funds she used were my father's savings. My savings. She even wore Dad's old watch on stage, smiling for the cameras, soaking in applause that should have been shared. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Not like glass, but like stone cracking under pressure. Quiet, slow, irreversible. I started documenting everything. Every transfer, every forged document, every public event she used Dad's name for. I wasn't thinking about revenge then. I was thinking about survival. I visited a lawyer, a kind woman named Mrs. Dale, who looked at the papers and sighed. "You've got a case," she said, "but without your mother's testimony, it'll be your word against hers." And Mum wouldn't testify. I knew it. When I left the office, it was raining. I stood under a flickering streetlight, soaked and trembling, watching people pass by with umbrellas and purpose. I felt invisible again. That night I dreamt of Dad. He stood by the lake, smiling gently the way he used to, saying, "You always see the best in people, Emily. But some people only see what they can take. I woke up crying. Something shifted in me then. Not rage but resolve. I stopped trying to make them see my pain. I started planning. Slowly, quietly, carefully. Because if they valued family reputation so much, then maybe that's exactly what I'd take from them. It began with whispers. Subtle, harmless rumors that Claire couldn't trace. I knew the community she lived in. Wealthy, tight-knit, gossip-hungry. I fed it crumbs. Isn't it strange how she inherited everything? I heard her sister got nothing. Spread like wildfire. Then I began sending anonymous tips to local journalists. Small things like how Turner & Company's charity had no real records of donations. Nothing that would expose me, just enough to make her sweat. Meanwhile, I rebuilt myself. I took evening classes in accounting, learned how to track finances, and how to speak with authority. I stopped looking like a victim. When Mum saw me at a community event months later, she barely recognized me. "You look different," she said, uncertain. Claire's smile was tighter than usual. "Yes," I replied calmly, meeting her eyes. "I suppose grief changes people." That night, Claire called me for the first time in months. "Whatever you're doing, stop," she said coldly. "You're playing with fire." I laughed softly. "No, sister. I'm just learning how to hold the match." Claire always prided herself on control. Every aspect of her life was curated. Her friends, her clothes, her smile. But control is fragile when built on lies. A month after that phone call, a journalist named Ava reached out to me. She said she was investigating Turner & Company and had received unverified information about suspicious transactions. My heart raced. "If you want the truth," I told her, "meet me in person." We met in a quiet cafe downtown. I showed her everything. Copies of the forged documents, transfer receipts, even Dad's original will. Ava's eyes widened. "If this is true, she's been siphoning funds under pretenses," she whispered. "I don't want to destroy her," I said. "I just want the truth to come out." But that was a lie. Deep down, I wanted Claire to feel what I felt. Stripped of dignity, watched, doubted. When the first article dropped, it didn't name her outright. It simply questioned the transparency of Turner & Company's finances. But it was enough. Sponsors pulled out, donations froze, and Claire's perfect reputation began to crack. For the first time, she wasn't untouchable. Mum called me in a fury. "What have you done, Emily? Claire is devastated. The paper is insinuating terrible things about her." Kept my tone even. "Maybe she should clear her name then." "Don't you dare talk like that," Mum hissed. "Do you think humiliating your sister makes you look better? You're both my daughters." "No, Mum," I said quietly. "You only have one." The silence on the other end told me I'd hit the truth she refused to face. Days later, Claire appeared at my flat. She was livid but composed. "You think this will make people love you? You're pathetic, Emily." She leaned closer, voice low and sharp. "Mum will never forgive you for this." I stared at her, calm. "Maybe she'll finally see who you really are." She smiled that same cold smile. "If I go down, I'll drag you with me." When she left, I stood by the window, heart pounding. For years, I'd been the one afraid of losing everything. But now, for the first time, she was the one with something to lose. The next few weeks felt like walking through fire. The media buzz grew louder. People whispered at church, at the market, everywhere Claire went. Turner & Company's sponsors demanded an audit. I heard from a friend that Claire was under stress, that she'd been snapping at staff, drinking more. The thought almost made me pity her. Almost. Then one evening, Mum showed up at my door, clutching her purse like a weapon. "You need to stop this," she said, trembling. "Your sister's reputation, our family's name, is in danger." I motioned for her to sit. "Do you know what she did, Mum? She forged Dad's will. She stole my inheritance. She humiliated me." Mum's voice broke. "Even if that's true, airing it out publicly will ruin us." Her words stung more than I expected. "Even if that's true." That was all I'd ever been to her. A problem to hide. I met her gaze steadily. You already ruined us when you chose silence. Mum rose, shaking her head. You sound just like your father, she said bitterly, as though it were an insult. After she left, I sat in the dark, realizing something painful. She didn't protect Claire out of love, she protected her out of fear. I didn't hear from Claire for weeks. Not until the audit report came out. It confirmed everything. The transfers, the forged authorizations, even payments to her personal accounts. Turner and Company was temporarily suspended pending investigation. The story went public, full names and all. When I saw her face on the news, smiling tightly as cameras flashed around her, I expected to feel triumph. Instead, I felt hollow. Then came a text. Hope you're happy. You destroyed us. I didn't reply. But later that night, Mum called again. Her voice was quiet, small. Claire's been crying all day. The board asked her to step down. Reporters are calling the house. I don't know what to do. For a moment I almost broke. But then I remembered the nights I cried alone, the walls that never answered, the years of being dismissed. Mum, I said softly, you told me to keep quiet for the family's reputation. Now the world is finally listening. She hung up. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of guilt, but out of relief. For the first time, silence wasn't protecting anyone. The fall was swift. Within a month, Turner and Company was shut down. Investigations spread to Claire's personal accounts. The house, the one that once belonged to our father, was seized pending review. When the notice arrived, Mum called again, desperate. Please, Emily, help us. You're the only one who can talk to the auditors. Tell them you've forgiven her. I laughed bitterly. Forgiveness doesn't erase fraud, Mum. She began to cry. You don't understand. We'll lose everything. You already did, I said quietly. The moment you chose her lies over my truth. There was a pause. Then Mum whispered something that chilled me. You think you've won, but all you've done is destroy your family. Closed my eyes. No, Mum. I didn't destroy it. I just stopped pretending it was whole. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet of my apartment, the weight of victory pressing down like grief. Because the truth was this. Revenge didn't bring peace, it brought clarity. And clarity can be its own kind of pain. Still, I wasn't done. Not yet. After the company's collapse, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. One afternoon I received a letter. Not from Mum, not from Claire, but from Dad's old lawyer, Mr. Hartwell. Inside was a copy of a legal addendum dated a year before Dad's death. My pulse quickened as I read. In the event of my passing, any transfer of estate or assets must be overseen by both daughters jointly. Both daughters. Meaning Claire had no legal right to act alone. Hartwell wrote that he'd tried to reach me years ago but was told I'd moved abroad. Claire's doing, no doubt. She'd forged not just my signature, but my absence. I stared at the page until tears blurred the words. All those years she painted me as the unstable one, the disappointment. And all along she'd built her success on erasing me. That night I made a decision. I wasn't just going to expose her lies. I was going to reclaim what she stole. Not through vengeance, but through justice. For the first time I felt something I hadn't in years. Purpose. Mr. Hartwell met me in person the following week. He looked older, frail but kind-eyed. Your father wanted both of you to manage the foundation, he said. He believed it would unite you. I let out a hollow laugh. He never saw how far she'd go to win. He nodded gravely. Claire's been rewriting history for years. But we can still set things right. The will can be reopened, if you're willing to pursue it. I hesitated. Legal action meant more headlines, more exposure. Mum would see it as another betrayal. But then I remembered her words. Keep it quiet for the family's reputation. That silence had cost me too much already. I'm ready, I said. Over the next few weeks, I worked with Hartwell to gather everything. Emails, bank records, statements. The paper trail was damning. Still something felt off. The more we uncovered, the clearer it became that Claire hadn't acted alone. One document, buried deep in the records, was co-signed by my mother. I stared at the page in disbelief. Mum's signature was there, next to Claire's, authorizing the asset transfer after Dad's death. I called Hartwell immediately. "Are you sure this isn't forged?" He sighed. "No. I verified it myself back then. Your mother was aware." My stomach turned. It wasn't just Claire's betrayal, it was hers too. I drove to Mum's house that evening. She looked thinner, older. When I confronted her, she didn't even flinch. "Yes," she said softly. "I signed it." "Why?" My voice cracked. She clasped her hands tightly. "Claire promised she'd take care of the company. Your father trusted her more with business. You were fragile back then." "Fragile?" Snap. "You mean grieving. You all were. But you punished me for it." Mum's eyes welled up. "I did what I thought was best." "No," I said coldly. "You did what was easiest." When I left, she didn't try to stop me. Driving home, I realized something harsh. Sometimes betrayal isn't born of malice, it's born of cowardice. And that made it hurt even more. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Claire's name was officially linked to multiple counts of fraud and breach of trust. She faced potential jail time, though her lawyers fought to settle privately. Meanwhile, Mum withdrew from everyone. Neighbors whispered that she rarely left the house. I told myself I didn't care. But guilt is a stubborn thing. It lingers even when you're right. One night, I found an envelope slid under my door. No name, just my address in messy handwriting. Inside was a short note. "You think you know everything, but you don't. Meet me where it began." It was signed C. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. The next day, I drove to our childhood home, now empty, foreclosed. The yard was overgrown, windows boarded. I stepped inside the dusty living room, heart hammering. Claire was there. She looked nothing like the sister I remembered. Hair unkempt, eyes red. "You got what you wanted," she said bitterly. "Are you happy now?" Before I could answer, she added, "Dad's death wasn't what you think." The words hit me like a punch. "What are you talking about?" Claire laughed weakly. "You really think it was a heart attack?" He found out what we did, what Mum and I had been hiding. He confronted her that night. Froze. Hiding what? Her eyes filled with tears. The foundation. It was failing. Dad was planning to shut it down, but Mum begged him not to. She convinced him to transfer everything under her and me, to protect it. When he realized she'd gone behind his back, he collapsed. I didn't mean for it to happen. My chest tightened. So it wasn't just greed, it was guilt. Claire nodded, trembling. Mum's been carrying that secret ever since. That's why she protected me. Why couldn't she let anyone find out? I stared at her, a storm of emotions surging. Anger, grief, pity. "And you both made me the villain to keep it buried." She broke down, sobbing. "I'm sorry, Emily. I thought I could fix it before it all fell apart. But it already had." As I left that house, I realized the truth wasn't just ugly. It was deadly. And now it was mine to tell. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dad clutching his chest, Mum's trembling hands, Claire's desperate tears. The lies had poisoned everything. Our family, our love, our memories. For decades, I'd carried the weight of being the broken one. The truth flipped it upside down. I wasn't the weak link. I was the scapegoat. By morning, I'd made up my mind. Silence had killed my father, destroyed my life, and twisted my family into strangers. I wouldn't let it bury me either. I called Mr. Hartwell. "We're not settling privately anymore," I said. "This story deserves light." He hesitated. "It'll be ugly, Emily. The press will eat it up." "Good," I said. "Let them choke on the truth." Within a week, a local paper ran the headline, "Daughter exposes fraud within prominent family foundation." Phones rang non-stop. Donations to the foundation plummeted overnight. Claire went into hiding. Mum refused my calls. But for the first time in years I could breathe. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted freedom. When the story broke nationally, the attention was overwhelming. Reporters camped outside my apartment. Old friends reached out, some with sympathy, others with curiosity masked as concern. I avoided interviews, but one journalist, Nora Bennett, persisted. She wasn't sensational. She was precise, calm, and respectful. Eventually I agreed to meet her. We met in a quiet cafe. She listened as I recounted everything. The will, the lies, the forged documents, Dad's death. When I finished, she didn't interrupt or pity me. Instead, she said softly, "You realize your story isn't just about inheritance. It's about how women are taught to protect others at their own expense." That line stuck with me. The next day, her article went viral. Not because of scandal but because of empathy. Viewers saw not just betrayal, but a woman reclaiming her voice after being silenced for years. Messages poured in. Strangers wrote, "You're not alone. Thank you for speaking up." And yet, amid all the attention, one message haunted me. A voicemail from Mum. "You've ruined everything. Are you proud?" I deleted it. But her voice lingered. 2 weeks later I got a call from the hospital. Mum had collapsed during a public confrontation outside the foundation building. They said she was stable but weak. I didn't want to go. Part of me felt she'd earned her reckoning. But another part, the daughter who still wanted her mother's approval, drove me there anyway. She was sitting up when I arrived, pale and small in the hospital bed. For the first time she looked fragile, not powerful, not proud, just human. "You came," she whispered. He nodded. "You're my mother." Tears filled her eyes. "I never meant for it to go this far. I thought if we could keep it quiet, the pain would fade." "It didn't," I said. "It just rotted." She reached for my hand. "I lost your father that night. I couldn't lose Claire too." Her words cut deep, because I realized she'd never seen me as the one worth saving. "I forgive you," I said quietly. "But I can't protect your lies anymore." Her tears fell then, not out of guilt but out of understanding. Claire resurfaced weeks later. She reached out through Hartwell requesting one final meeting. I almost refused, but curiosity and closure won again. We met in the same park where Dad used to take us as kids. The autumn air was crisp, the trees shedding their leaves like old regrets. Claire looked exhausted, dressed plainly, with no trace of her former confidence. "You destroyed everything," she said softly. "No," I replied. "I revealed everything." She sighed. "You think truth fixes things. Doesn't. It just breaks what's left." Then maybe it needed to break. She sat on the bench, staring at the lake. "I'm leaving the country. Selling what's left, starting over. There's nothing for me here." "Then go," I said. "But don't call it punishment. Call it consequence." She nodded slowly. "You were always stronger than I wanted to admit." When she walked away, I didn't feel triumph. Just a strange, aching peace. Like closing a wound that would always leave a scar. Months passed. The foundation was dissolved. Its assets redirected to community programs under new management. Mum moved into a smaller house, living quietly. She sent me a letter once. Short, careful handwriting. It said only, "I'm sorry I chose image over truth. I hope one day you'll remember me kindly." I kept it tucked inside Dad's old journal. As for me, I began teaching again. Small workshops, writing, helping women tell their stories. Nora's article had inspired hundreds to reach out, and I wanted to give that voice back to others who'd been silenced. One evening after class, a young woman stayed behind. "Your story changed my life," she said. "It made me tell my own." Smiled. Then it was worth it. When I locked up and stepped outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky gold and crimson. For the first time in years I felt light. Not because I'd won, but because I'd survived. Spring came early that year. I noticed it one morning when the air outside smelled faintly of rain and lilacs. Soft, clean, forgiving. The chaos had died down. The journalists stopped calling. My inbox was quiet. For once, silence felt like peace instead of punishment. I visited Dad's grave for the first time in months. The marble headstone was simple. A good man who loved his family. I ran my fingers over the engraving, whispering, "Did you know, Dad? About everything." The wind stirred, almost as if answering. I sat there for a long while, letting the past unravel in my mind. Every lie, every silence, every night I'd begged for truth. Then I saw something wedged in the corner of the grave marker. A folded paper, weathered but intact. It wasn't recent. Curious, I opened it. It was a note written in Dad's handwriting. My heart stopped. "If anyone finds this, tell Emily I tried to protect her." The truth was buried to keep her safe. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. What did he mean, to keep me safe from what? The next day, I went through every box of his belongings I still had. Old letters, business papers, faded photos. And then a sealed envelope labeled, "To be read only if necessary." Inside was a handwritten confession. Not from Dad, but from Mum. Daniel found out about the money transfer and confronted Claire. She panicked, threatened to expose everything, including what I'd done. He promised to fix it quietly, but that night he collapsed. "I should have told you, Emily. I couldn't bear losing both my daughters, or my reputation. So I buried the truth with him." My hands trembled. It wasn't just Claire's fraud. Mum had been part of it. She'd moved the funds first, and Claire had helped her hide it. Dad discovered it and died trying to protect us from the fallout. All those years I blamed myself, when the guilt belonged to them. I sank to the floor, the letter shaking in my hands. I thought of Mum's quiet sadness lately, her fragile apologies, the way she'd looked at me as if she was finally ready to face something she'd buried too deep. It all made sense now. I drove to her house that evening. She was on the porch, sitting in her old wicker chair, as if waiting. When she saw me, she smiled weakly. "I wondered when you'd come." I handed her the letter. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Because I wanted you to remember him as a good man, not a broken one who died under the weight of our mistakes." "But you let me think I was the problem," I said, voice breaking. "You watched me drown in guilt you caused." She looked down. "I thought protecting you meant keeping you blind. I was wrong." The sky dimmed as the first stars appeared. I realized then that she wasn't defending herself anymore. She was confessing. "I can't undo what I did," she whispered. "But I want to spend what's left of my life making it right. Tell me how." I sighed, the anger slowly fading into something sadder, gentler. "Tell the truth publicly. About the foundation, about Dad, about you." She nodded. "If that's what it takes to free you, I will." For the first time, she looked like my mother again. A month later, Mum released a public statement. She took full responsibility for the fraud, detailing how she and Claire had manipulated the funds and how Daniel, my father, had tried to shield the family from ruin. The statement went viral. But the tone was different this time. Not scandal, not outrage. People saw courage in her confession. Redemption in truth. She received letters, not hate but empathy. From women who'd lied to protect appearances. From families broken by silence. When I read her words, I cried. Not from anger but from relief. It was finally over. That weekend, we visited Dad's grave together. She placed a single white lily down, then whispered, "I told the world the truth. Now maybe you can rest." I didn't say anything. I just slipped my hand into hers, and for the first time in years, we didn't feel like strangers standing over the same grave. We were two broken women learning to forgive. A year later, I stood in front of a small audience at a women's conference, giving a talk titled, "The Weight of Silence." I spoke about truth, how it hurts, heals, and rebuilds. About how families sometimes rot from the inside when appearances become more sacred than honesty. When I finished, the applause felt different. Not loud but warm, human. Afterward, a young girl came up to me. "I read your story," she said shyly. "I told my mom what my uncle did to me. She believed me because of you. Tears stung my eyes. Hugged her. That means everything, I whispered. Later that night I sat by my window, the city lights glimmering below. On my desk sat Dad's journal, Mum's letter, and a photo of the three of us before everything fell apart. The wounds would never vanish, but they no longer defined me. Truth had taken everything from me, but it had also given me back something priceless. Myself. And as I closed the journal for the last time, I knew, some stories don't end in triumph or tragedy. They end in peace.